30 years of the best sports talk in Middle Tennessee, featuring Tennessee Radio Hall of Famer George Plaster, Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame coach Watson Brown, and young guns Billy Derrick. And now, here's your host, George Plaster.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome in on what is, let's look outside and say that it's a beautiful Tuesday in Nashville, Tennessee, and we welcome all of you into our new digs at the Ford Ice Center in Bellevue, and we are very appreciative that that is the case. By the way, we have very late word, that Jimmy Butler just scored again. I believe, and I have no proof of this, there's no real way to judge it. Last night is the single best offensive scoring night I've ever seen a player have. He was unbelievable last night, leading an 8-seed Miami Heat to a victory over the number 1 Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks. Anyway, just a thought. We'll probably have a few more of those before it's over. Let's check in Murfreesboro and say hello to Kelly Holcomb. Kelly, how are you?
I'm good, George. You're absolutely right, man. That was unbelievable what he did last night. 56.
I'm not hearing Kelly.
Oh, boy.
That's going to be a problem.
That is going to be a problem.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I'm also not hearing you.
Kelly, we got you. We're just working on George's headphones, earphones.
Technical there we go. Talk, Kelly.
Yeah, I can hear George fine. I think you were absolutely right, man. Jimmy Butler. I go back to the playoff game when they laid an egg in the play-in game. It was. I don't understand what's happened. I mean, I understand these guys are professional, but they're playing really good, and to be 3-1 over the number 1 seed in the West is pretty. Obviously they hadn't had Giannis for a couple of games, but I think Milwaukee's finding out that they might want to get somebody else to help Giannis.
Oh, no kidding. I don't know that I have ever seen a player take over a game the way he did. I'm old enough that I did see Pete Maravich a little bit, but man, last night he just completely took over that game with very little help. He had 56 points. Was like, I want to say 19 of 28 from the field. It was unbelievable what I saw. Anyway, Grizzlies are in trouble.
Yeah, I don't know. Why don't they just keep their mouth shut to LeBron? That's all I'm saying. I mean, they've awakened the monster. I mean, the guy gets 20 points and 20 rebounds, and I think he had 5 assists as well. So, he's on a very elite list. He's already on the elitist list that you can have, but he's on an elite list with Elgin Baylor and some of those guys who's had 20, over 20 points and 20 rebounds and then 5 assists. That was pretty incredible what he did. And I like watching it because I think he understands his team now with the add-ons that they got during the year. He doesn't have to do it by himself. He's got Anthony Davis, obviously. Those are the 2 celebrity guys on the team, but when you can pass it to the Reeves kid or the Vanderbilt kid and they can score points and do what they're doing, I mean, they're hitting their stride at the right time, and I think you're right. I think Memphis may be in trouble.
And what the networks may be about to get is the dream matchup. Lakers, either Golden State, Lakers, Sacramento. And if it's anything like this Sacramento Golden State thing, holy cow, are they going to get some numbers out of all that? Billy, how are you today?
I am great, George. I'm phenomenal. How about the NBA action? It's been unbelievable.
Pretty good. Jimmy Butler just scored again. Now he's got 60.
56 points. As Kelly said, LeBron had 22 as the Lakers turn it to 3-1 series, and they go to Memphis tomorrow night to try to win the series. Who would have thought?
I don't think they're going to win it there, but I think Memphis is going to be hard-pressed to beat them, whatever they call it now. It's the old Staples Center. And
Crypto.com arena.
Whatever.
Are you familiar with the term crypto?
Yeah, I don't know what it means, don't really care. Kelly, help me.
Didn't they start out in the pyramid a long time ago? Wasn't there what was it?
No, that was Memphis.
No,
well, first of all, the year that I did was at the old Mid-South Coliseum. Mid-South Coliseum was municipal auditorium plus about 3,000 seats.
Yeah.
Same kind of configuration. Then when I left, they were so inspired in Memphis to get me the hell out of there that they built the pyramid, which is now a what is it? Bass Pro Shop. Yeah,
it's the largest. It's the largest Bass Pro Shop.
Yeah, that seems like a strange go from an arena to a Bass Pro Shop.
Remember,
they played there for a long time, and now, of course, FedEx Forum, which is beautiful, which cost more to build than Nashville with the Titans Stadium.
Really?
Yeah. How about that?
I've been there. It's a nice place. It really is. It's beautiful. Yeah.
Very nice. It'll be rocking tomorrow night. I do wonder if the Grizzlies go out in one series, is there a coaching change?
You got to wonder. I don't think they're too happy with Jenkins right now.
Well, they need to get Dylan Brooks to shut the hell up.
He almost seems like a
the LA people are all over him.
Oh, all over him. When he touches the ball, they boo.
They know who he is. I'll say that.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
He's a free agent going into this upcoming offseason, so he's going to be looking for a new home. Like I said, I don't think he's going to be in Memphis.
Yeah. What else we got, Billy?
We got the NHL playoffs rolling on. New Jersey beat the Rangers last night 3-1. That series is tied at 2. Toronto beat Tampa Bay 5-4. Had some good games last night. Toronto
bunch
leads
of overtimes.
3-1. Vegas beat Winnipeg 4-2. They now lead that series 3-1. And Seattle beat Colorado 3-2. They're now tied at 2.
The old Kraken have got that city pumped. Seattle, a lot of noise last night.
Back to a sports town.
Made a lot of noise.
Tonight, we got the Islanders and Carolina. Carolina with a chance to win that series tonight. Minnesota and Dallas, which has been phenomenal. And then L.A. and Edmonton. Again, I think L.A. and Edmonton, Minnesota, Dallas are the two best series going right now in the NHL, so that'll be fun. In baseball, the Pittsburgh Pirates have reached a deal with former Vandy boy, Brentwood native, Bryan Reynolds. 8 years, $106.75 million extension for Bryan Reynolds.
Perhaps Bryan could invest in the show.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. So say that again. 8 years, how much?
$106.75 million.
Now, how
a little more than $13 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
George, how do those contracts in the NHL work? Are they like baseball and basketball where all that's guaranteed once you sign?
No, this was
very different.
This was baseball.
Oh, baseball.
Bryan Reynolds.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So Bryan Reynolds has been on the trade block for ages.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing somewhere they came up with a number that satisfied him and satisfied the Pirates. Here's what's going on, though. Pittsburgh has gotten off to a red-hot start in the National League. Surprised everybody.
Yeah, Reynolds requested an opt-out, and then they picked up the talks in recent days, and a limited no-trade clause helped push the deal across the finish line.
Good for him.
Best record in the National League, Pittsburgh Pirates. Who would have thought that on April 25th?
What is their record?
I think they are 16-7.
That's the good news. The bad news, it ain't going to last.
Meanwhile, another piece of bad news, back to the NBA. The Clippers have ruled out Kawhi Leonard for Game 5 against the Suns. They're going to try to keep their season alive without Leonard and Paul George against Phoenix.
This is a tough story on a couple of fronts, and I don't know who has paid attention to this or who hasn't. Kawhi Leonard, as we all know, is a great player. He has had injury problems all along. I have no idea if this piece of the story connects to the other piece, but his sister was sentenced to life without parole a week ago for a murder in a casino.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Now,
I didn't know that.
I don't know, but I've got to think that has weighed very heavily on this young guy. And I'm not saying that's what's going on. I don't know. Never met Kawhi Leonard. But I know one thing, man, when the guy's on his A game, whoo.
Yeah, he's really good. And he's if he's out, they have no shot. They've
done the best they could in the 2 games in Los Angeles. Russell Westbrook has attempted about 90 shots a game.
He's been their saving grace.
He has been. He scored a bunch of points.
Hey, what about De'Aaron Fox? I mean, I keep hearing that. Is he going to be out for Game 5?
He's still questionable. I'm pretty sure. So that's another guy they might need if they plan on beating the Warriors.
They don't win Game 5, I don't think, without him.
No. And he's questionable. And I heard today that they thought he was going to be out. They were ruling him out, and then it came back and they said he was questionable. So who knows?
These injuries have been ridiculous in the NBA.
Well, teams also are very likely to be very tight-lipped about what really is going on. They don't tell you much.
No. Well, Ty Lue did say Leonard received treatment and did not practice on Monday.
Yeah.
And he made it clear to anyone who criticized Leonard for load management. He said that his star forward is injured.
Look, I don't doubt he is. I'm just saying that in the background, and this has not been talked about at all, is the sister with a life sentence without parole.
Got to believe that's a fact.
That's got to have weighed heavily on him.
Yeah, it's got to be a huge factor because you can tell by him. He doesn't talk, he doesn't say much, but you can tell the guy's got a good heart, and I'm sure that has bothered him to no end.
Let's get to some college football. Notre Dame's Tyler Buchner, their backup quarterback, of course, with the incoming Sam Hartman, has entered the transfer portal. And that'll make him the most accomplished quarterback to enter in the spring period. And there's going to be a big market for him. He played well last year. He's more of a runner. I think he's not the best passer, but that's a good quarterback on the market now, really, for anybody who wants him.
Kelly, when you played at Middle, did you ever consider transfer portal?
Well, I did not. I started as a true freshman.
Let me butt in. I'm not hearing Kelly at all.
It took me 2 years to win the job. So, not 2 years, excuse me. I won the.
I'm not sure what's going on. I'm barely hearing me.
Yeah, it took me 2 weeks to win the job. So I never thought about that. Times were different. We didn't have that transfer portal stuff. And that's what I told my son. We didn't really have the transfer deal. Some guys left, but it was just, it wasn't a thing back then, George. It really wasn't. And now it's, just hearing the kid from Notre Dame. I mean, it's free agency in college football.
Oh, sure it is.
There's always been guys that have transferred, but now it's getting to the point where, and that's our society. I mean, I talk about this all the time, but if you come in and you don't want to compete and you can just transfer, I just don't like that. There's no biding your time, taking some lumps, learning your trade and fighting through stuff. That's just not going to happen anymore, guys. If they don't like it or if they're not playing, they're going to transfer somewhere.
Kelly, the best line I've ever had on this show was around the time of the bowl season when I announced that the Rose Bowl would have a new float. It would be a transfer portal float. And JT Daniels would be up there waving to the crowd, "Hi, I've transferred 4 times in 4 years."
And he's gone.
Incredible.
It's amazing, man. I mean, that's what's happening in college sports now. It's what free agency is in football, or free agency is in anything else. I mean, and I understand in the pros, but like college, I don't know. I would like to see a guy stay just like Jalen Hurts did. He was, he got benched and he stayed the course, but then he was able to go somewhere else and he helped. But that Nick Saban loves Jalen Hurts, and obviously it paid off.
Are you aware, by the way, this is Super Tuesday?
Oh, yeah. You told me yesterday. Yeah, Super Tuesday.
Tony Basilio, after the break, and then Coach Herm Edwards at 3 o'clock. So when I say Super Tuesday, we mean it. As we go to the break, let's talk a little 24/7 sports with you. Let's see if it comes up. First of all, are you betting on either the NBA or the NHL playoffs? If you're not, you probably should be through the folks at Action 24/7. Use the promo code GEORGE. That's right, I got my own promo code. Get a 300% deposit match up to $20 on your first deposit. Action 24/7 is Tennessee's only locally owned and operated sports book. That's right. If you got questions, these are good folks who can help you. They are your neighbors located right here in Tennessee. So download the app or visit action247.com to start all that winning, and please bet responsibly. Year number 2 of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night was awesome. And the reason is really simple. I chose Strike and Spare, and they were amazing. They have great food, great bowling, and a staff that is truly ready to go the extra mile to help you. They have 5 family fun centers in the area to choose from, and for more info, go to strikeandspare.com or call them at 615-824-5685.
How am I going to get to work? My car's totaled.
Skylar, our team is making a call right now. We'll get you a rental car. Don't worry.
That's a relief.
Call us 24/7. We're here. We're going to help.
Now that the weather has gotten considerably warmer, there's not a better place to spend a morning or an afternoon than Riverside Golf Lanes. So you've probably noticed the weather has gotten a lot warmer, and that means a couple of things in Nashville. It means baseball, and it really means golf. And for me, it's a visit to Riverside Golf Links. The course has improved dramatically. There are now 27 holes, including a 9-hole executive course. If you want tee times or more information, dial them up at 615-847-5074.
You can't see the sights without the sounds. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the crowd and everything in between, discover what Hit City has to offer. Spend your nights cheering on the Nashville Sounds at First Horizon Park with giveaways, fireworks shows, theme weekends, and more. Single game tickets are on sale now. Visit NashvilleSounds.com to claim your seat today.
Welcome back. We're headed up to Pennsylvania for our weekly visit with Knoxville Sports Talk Show host Tony Basilio, who joins us by way of phone today. Tony, how are you? Okay, let's try it again. Tony, can you hear us?
Not sure why we're not getting Tony right now.
Okay.
Gonna try calling him back.
We'll just sort of four-corner stall it for a moment. When we do get him on, I'm going to ask him about what went on in Cincinnati last week. The hearing, obviously, in front of the NCAA Infractions Committee is over. And as Tony told us last week, they don't expect an answer until sometime in either June or July. So it will probably be a while, and I think everybody knew that going in. It was not as though, Kelly, they were going to get an answer that day. This is going to take a while.
Yeah, it is going to take a while, but it's going to be interesting to see what really transpired and you know what Tony's going to talk about. It's hopefully we got a little bit of word from it, but you know, like I told you, the wheels of justice roll slowly. So I don't know, the NCAA. I can see the NCAA getting themselves in a corner one day, and all these Power 5 schools saying, "Hey, we're done with it. You're not going to rule us, being our sanctioning body anymore. We're going to go do our own thing." And, the Power 5 is what makes all the money.
Kelly, I think it happens in our lifetime.
I agree. I really do. Coach Donnelly used to tell me that way back in the day. He told me that 15 years ago that the big conferences would break off at some point and they would leave the NCAA, and it seems like it's headed in that direction.
Yeah, and right now it seems like the only thing holding it together is the fact that they basically put on the NCAA basketball tournament. But for the life of me, I don't know why those schools can't do it themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're absolutely right, George. It's going to happen. I mean, football, basketball, but it's going to happen. They're going to leave the NCAA. And like you said, I don't know how long, but it'll probably be in our lifetime. And they're just not going to be able to control the Power 5 conferences anymore.
Okay, I think we've got Tony. You may have heard him in the background. Tony, how are you?
I'm doing great, and it's always an absolute blessing to spend a few with you guys.
Well, it's even more so on this end. When we left you last Wednesday, the hearings were going on in Cincinnati. What have you all heard up there since it ended?
George, I think it went pretty well for Tennessee. Not so well for Jeremy Pruitt. And I think that's kind of the takeaway. I think at the end of the day, Tennessee is, I don't say they're breathing easier, because you never know in these things. But by the tone and tenor of the questions that they were asked, they didn't feel like they were under any kind of severe microscope. And they feel pretty good internally that it was more about at least what went on there. It was more about what happened with Pruitt. How much did you know or didn't you know? And Tennessee felt like, because a lot of what occurred under him occurred off campus, they felt like they made a pretty good case that he was sort of a rogue actor, which is the way that you guys are talking about the changes with the NCAA. That is the way the game is played now. Back in the day, it used to be that the institutions would pay the price for the actions of these guys, and subsequent classes afterwards and current athletes would be punished. And they're trying to get away from that model. Now, will they here? I don't know. Because, again, Tennessee was surprised that it came to this, that they ended up having to go up there. That was never the intention.
Tony, best as you can tell, did they tell the university, hey, you'll have a decision by X?
Absolutely not, no. Kelly said it best. I mean, when it comes to the NCAA, I mean, my gosh, I mean, there were cases they've just now gotten to that have been going on 4 or 5 years. Generally, once they hear a case, though, in this situation, generally 6-8 weeks, they try to put it to bed. I mean, the latest, and I like to be conservative with that kind of thing, the latest July or August. And who knows, they might come back in June and tell Tennessee something. That would be a best case scenario. And no matter what it is, you can get on with it and sort of get on with the business of being who you are.
Kelly, anything on this subject you want to get into?
No, I just, being a friend of Jeremy's, I hate that he got into that situation. I hate all this, but, it's a tough deal, and, we'll see what happens with it. But just like Tony said, the schools are going to protect themselves, and I think that's, it sounds like that's the way the hearing went, and that's the way it's going to go for all these big schools.
Tony, over the weekend, Tennessee took Vandy behind the woodshed, and it really surprised some people. Once Tennessee came from behind Friday night, it's like the dam opened. Give me some thoughts from up there, the perspective up there of what went on and what does this do as far as Tennessee's postseason hopes?
Baseball's such a fickle sport, George. You know that. I know that. But one thing that baseball's always been is a sport that's catching. Whether you can't field an untimely errors or untimely hitting or whatever the case, Vanderbilt saw their closer Maldonado get touched up for 2 home runs by freshmen in the 9th inning, just out of nowhere. Boom, boom. And all of a sudden, Chase Burns, the mid-state kid who lost his spot in the rotation because, quite frankly, he had about a 13 ERA in Southeastern Conference play, and he was dreadful. And so they were forced, essentially, to pull the plug on him and admit that it wasn't working, which is something the staff never wants to do. And all of a sudden, Tennessee takes that momentum into the next day and scores a ton of runs with 2 outs. They do the exact same thing on Sunday, but essentially put both games out of reach early, and voila, you have a sweep. George, nobody here, and I mean nobody internally, nobody around it, nobody that covers it, thought that was coming. This is a Tennessee team that a couple days before they took the field with Vanderbilt had gotten had gotten close to being run ruled. I said that because they got blown out in their own building by a Tennessee Tech team that was 10-24 coming into the game last week and just beat Tennessee 7 ways to Sunday. And there was nothing, and I mean nothing, to suggest that what occurred was going to occur. Absolutely nothing, which is why we love sports, which is why it remains interesting. And all of a sudden, Tennessee has beaten Vanderbilt. I think the number's like 7 out of 8 now, some crazy number like that after Evan Russell's grand slam a few years back. And, before that, and obviously down through the years, Vandy's been sort of a gold standard baseball program, but there's certainly a lot of intrigue and, and in these parts, people here are very, very surprised at what happened this weekend because nobody saw it coming.
Tony, the truth of it is, a year ago, Ole Miss caught fire very late after having had kind of a lackluster season, and lo and behold, before anybody knew what hit them, they were the NCAA champion in Omaha. Is there a scenario where Tennessee catching fire this week leads them on some magic carpet ride?
How disgusted do you think Vanderbilt Nation would be, George, if that occurred? I mean, you were inside the apparatus of that. And the truth is, with Indy's baseball program, that's their one kind of saving grace.
Right.
A point of pride. And for them to be Tennessee's launching pad would be, I think Tim Corbin, if that were to occur, would probably leave the country while if they weren't in Omaha themselves, I think he'd probably leave the country, George, because he'd be so disgusted.
But could it happen?
I mean, theoretically, in that sport, anything could happen. You make an interesting case. So Oklahoma last year is a team that Tennessee hammered down in Houston, who was kind of okay last year. And they got hot. And they ended up in the World Series against that Ole Miss team. That, as you say, nothing suggested Ole Miss was going to do what they did. Nothing. Tennessee went into their building last year, swept them, blew them out, beat up on them a couple times, won a close game on a Sunday on the final game, swept them out, looked like they broke their spirit. It took them a good half the season, as you say, to sort of even get back to where they weren't taking on water anymore. And George, could it happen? Sure. I mean, Tennessee's got great pitching. The problem Tennessee has, George, is at the end of it all, is their defense and you saw it on Sunday. They had a couple of errors.
Yeah.
Their defense is still very leaky.
It's interesting because at Ole Miss, they were the last team to get in a year ago. And the rumor down there was that if they didn't get the bid, they were going to make a coaching change. And lo and behold, they catch fire in early June, run through the whole deal, win it all. And you look at Tennessee, a team that a year ago a lot of people thought would win it all until they ran into Notre Dame. And you just wonder. I mean, it's a crazy thought, but stranger things have happened.
George, the year that Ahuna got hurt with the Braves is the year they won the World Series. Think about that. Last year's team was basically full strength and did not even get off the bus against my Phillies. Last year made no sense. You talked about what you just discussed, but I'll give you one. Well, I'll give you some with college baseball that's nuts. Since 1999, the last team to win the College World Series in Omaha, going into the tournament as the number 1 seed overall, was Miami in 1999.
How about that? 24 years.
Yes, and counting, because that is a millstone tied to your neck when you go into the postseason. And I saw that here. I talked to Tony about that away from everything. He said, Tony, there is no way to prepare for that in this sport, being that number 1 team and everything that it comes with. And he said, my guys were playing last year Notre Dame, and they were already in Omaha. He said, that was my fault. He said, but there's as a coach, I can see how it could happen to anybody, because you take all that pressure, all that expectation, plus you have one of those short series. And in those, when you get down to those super regional deals, that's blood sport. I mean, that's for real. And that's a 3-game series against a very good team. Generally, you're going to play in one of those deals. So factor with the pressure in front of your own fans, the expectations of being number 1. Yeah, since 1999, that's a crazy number.
That's an amazing stat. Kelly, I know you got a lot of football for Tony. Lay it on him.
Well, this is the last I get to talk to Tony before we actually know what's going on in the draft. So I hadn't asked about this one young man, but I was watching ESPN the other day, and Louis Riddick was talking about he may be turn out to be one of the better players in the draft. And I know a couple of weeks, I'm talking about Darnell Wright, but I know a couple of weeks ago we got into a Twitter battle with a guy about right tackle, left tackle, and he was all apologetic. But just how good is Darnell Wright? And are you hearing anything from, everybody's closed mouth right here, but where do we think he's going to go?
I think he's a first-round draft pick. I think he's one of the first 20. I'm going to guess he's one of the first 23 picks in the draft, would be my guess. And I think he's a guy that will be penciled in and who will have an excellent NFL career. I will tell you that just the information I've gotten is that he has been encouraged to get the heck off of social media, to get out of the DMs of people that do what they do, and to cut that nonsense out. Because you and I both know that's red flag stuff when you start lashing out at especially some podcaster in Cincinnati. I mean, my gosh, man. What are you, like, name searching yourself?
No, you're absolutely right. Now, the whole thing was about right tackle or left tackle. And I understand that left tackles in the NFL, you got mostly right-handed quarterbacks. They get paid, really, really well other than the right tackle. But as long as you're there, it doesn't really matter. But I'm with you about getting off social media, man. It's just, these kids nowadays, like, you got to – and that's what they do the interview process for, Tony, in Indianapolis, because they want to find those red flags. And when something like that makes you mad and gets you upset where you're starting to talk back to people, that is kind of a red flag with teams, because what are you going to do in the heat of battle?
Right. And you and I both know, I mean, you spent time in Philly. Those media people up there, if they sense weakness on you in one of those northeastern cities, what do they do to you?
I mean, people that live in these parts can't appreciate what that is up there, can they? They really can't.
No, it's absolutely. If they get on you and then you show weakness, man, they will wear you out. New York, Philly. I mean, it's those places. You got to be tough-skinned, mentally very tough to take all that.
Yeah, and they test you. That's the other thing. You talk to guys that play in towns like that, and that's why for all these guys, the NFL game's always been interesting to me because I think, like, for instance, how many people do you guys think could have functioned the way Brock Purdy functioned last year in the spot that he was in? I would venture to tell you that there were several people that could have done that, and you and I both know it. But there's something to be said about landing in the right spot at the exact right time, because he's going to make money. He's going to get paid now. And he was a 7th-round pick.
Who's Mr.
When he was
Irrelevant?
drafted a year ago. He was the last guy, right? He was the last Mr. Irrelevant.
Yes.
Crazy. I mean, think about how crazy train that is. And I'll tell you what, there's a bunch of guys that are going to end up in the wrong spots for their mental makeup, for who they are, for their game, whatever it is. And then there's a bunch of guys who end up in the right places. And, with Darnell Wright, he's got kind of an interesting makeup from that perspective. He's got to get in the right spot. This staff here did a really nice job of nurturing him.
Yeah, and that's what you have to do with young men like that. But, it's going to be interesting to see where he goes. Now, let's talk about the UT white and orange game. Were you able to watch it? How did Joe Milton do? How did the kid from California, Nico? I'm not going to mess up his name. How did those guys do in the orange and white game?
Well, neither quarterback had any kind of receivers in terms of regular guys. Several guys were held out. Tennessee's actually had the luxury. It's almost like you borderline arrived in this league when you cannot play your guys in the spring, when you use the spring period for development. And they're right about there, which is how the rest of the league pretty much approaches spring football these days, since it's such a year-round endeavor. It isn't like it once was, say, 20 years ago, where you see more regulars in a game like that. That said, Nico has unbelievably great athletic skill and is just going to be very good in that offense. I'll be really honest with you guys. The thing that really concerned me about him is the NIL era, the posse around him, the look at me stuff, the flamboyant pajamas, and the walking around in the dark room with the sunglasses on, and some of the things that were going on in the recruiting process really bothered me, really worried me. What I've heard since he's gotten on campus, right on through that spring game, he has been a real student. He has been really humble. He has been seeking Joe Milton out. Joe Milton's almost become like a big brother to him.
Yeah.
Hey, explain this to me. Take me under wing. I want to learn. I'm here to challenge you, but I'm not necessarily here to, beat you down. I'm not necessarily here to demand that I start from day one. Because, look, I mean, when you bring one of those guys in, especially a guy that's really flamboyant at that, I'm a big believer that quarterbacks should act like quarterbacks, which makes me kind of old school. But generally speaking, I can't think of one that doesn't lose that kind of flamboyant stuff. You have to check that at the door at some point if you're going to be successful. I think at any level that's serious outside of high school ball. I could be wrong, but I don't think quarterbacks can act like wide receivers. Maybe I'm old school. Maybe it's a different era, but that's me. And this kid has behaved like a quarterback since he's been here, which is really good news for Tennessee.
Well, Tony, I totally agree with you on that, because as a quarterback, I mean, the weight of the team is on your back nowadays. I mean, that's how important the quarterback position is. And then when you go to the NFL, that's why they get paid all that money. So you have to act a different way. You You just can't act the way that some of these guys do. And I will say this now, Peyton. I'm sure Peyton will talk to him because that's Peyton's. That's my pet peeve. That's one of Peyton's pet peeves. If you're going to be a quarterback, you have to act a certain way, and there's a lot of responsibility. You have to know what everybody's doing on your offensive side of the ball, and you have to be the leader in the huddle. And if you're acting like a clown, nobody's going to respect that. So it's just totally different.
Well, I think of Cam Newton, right? Cam Newton, when his physical ability slipped a little bit, and he was no longer Super Cam, if he had the right makeup and right approach, he probably could have lengthened his career.
Absolutely.
But because he behaved a certain way, they flushed that clown out of that system so quickly it made your head spin. I mean, there you see him, and a couple years later, there you don't.
They really did. They really did. Hey, I've got one more question, George. I know you're waiting on me, but I have got a heartfelt deal for the Herring brothers. They're some of my best. I coached those guys for 4 years. They're my son's best friends. They had a group that used to hang out over here at my house. But how is Elijah and Caleb? I know that Caleb went in early. He's a freshman this year. But have you heard anything about those guys?
Oh yeah. So you'll like this, and this ain't gonna surprise you. Everybody thought Caleb was kind of a throw in to get Elijah, right?
Yeah.
He's a really nice player. He's a really nice player. Been kind of a revelation for them. He's in their plans.
Good.
And that's not a surprise to you, I'm sure.
No.
Or people from his community. But they think he's going to play some ball. So both those guys, again, yes or no, sir, which you already know.
Yep.
Both of those guys are pieces they feel like they can build around for the future. And did they take one to get the other? I have no idea. But a lot of times, not a lot of times, but every once in a while, in those deals, those quote-unquote package deals, which I don't know if that's what that was, but many people think that's what it was. Hey, both of them can play.
Yeah.
Both of them can play, which is good stuff, right?
Absolutely. You got it, George.
Okay, Tony, before you leave, tell people how they can hear you.
Yeah, so you can check out my blog every day at tclub.team. Again, tclub.team. And today on the show, George, we had a little fun with Billy Derrick's podcast from last week. I got to tell Billy that. I got to give him a shout out here. Those poor guys, George, on Billy's podcast, the Vandy podcast, those guys have to be in severe pain.
Tony, it was a brutal weekend. We didn't see that coming.
I listened to you guys tolling around the Northeast because somebody sent it to me beforehand. And the preamble to your Chris Burke interview that you had last week, where you guys just went in hard on Tony Vitello and you just went, you guys were going off. And I'm thinking to myself, man, knowing how that series turned out, these guys had to be in the fetal position when the weekend was over.
It was brutal. My buddy David walked in the first yesterday, and he was like, "How's the weekend?" I was like, "It was brutal. We didn't see that series coming." But Tony, respect.
Nobody saw it coming.
Respect to Tennessee, they came to play. They came to play, and Vandy didn't have any killer instinct, no fight to them at all. And Tennessee and Tony Vitello, they have caught the attention of Vandy fans.
They sure have.
You know what's weird about that whole thing, though? What's strange to me about Vanderbilt's body language is they did not look like a team that wanted to get some get back for last year.
No.
I would have thought that everybody on that roster would have played with a sense of urgency, and they just did not.
No, it's almost like there's no pride when they play Tennessee.
Well, that one's a mystery.
I was talking to George before the weekend saying this should be the series. This should be the weekend where Vandy takes it to them, but
shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Well, hey, George, I enjoy Billy. Billy's got a good podcast, George, and I'll say this. They were talking about renovations to and improvements of Vanderbilt's football stadium. I would add 3 exits and 2 porta potties, and away you go.
Hey, you take care up there.
Hey, much love, guys. All
Love
good
it.
fun.
Love
Billy,
it.
you got a lot of ability, Billy, and it was fun listening to you guys. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Tony.
See you, Tony.
Bye, guys.
Don't let it go to your head.
Dang,
He's
so
right.
Billy-
There's nothing wrong about what he said. And I mean, I was confident going.
That you have ability?
Oh, I thought you meant the.
No, I'm just kidding.
No, it's all fun.
After the break, I'm going to give you another one that you're going to sit there and say, are you serious? Could that really happen? Just stick around. You won't believe this.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
Hockey in Music City just hits different. It's one big honky-tonk party. It's the sea of gold in the crowd, the goals, the saves, the celebrations. It's an experience like no other. Experience Predators hockey all season long. Visit NashvillePredators.com/season tickets and join the Loyal Legion today. That's NashvillePredators.com/tickets, and we'll see you at Bridgestone Arena.
For over 35 years, Wilson Bank & Trust has been committed to providing customized banking solutions to help individuals, families, and businesses in Tennessee achieve their goals. As your full-service community bank, we are proud to offer loans with competitive rates, local decision-making, and fast, friendly service from our experienced lenders. No matter where you are on your financial journey, Wilson Bank & Trust is ready to help you take the next step. Visit your nearest Wilson Bank & Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Family owned and operated for more than 2 decades, Alaco Fine Wood Floors is Nashville and Middle Tennessee's choice for premium quality hardwood floors. Since 1995, Jimmy Alaco and his army of employees have embodied the approach of taking pride in one's craft and providing superior customer service, growing from a one-man shop to a team of 23 professionals who share the founder's passion for quality craftsmanship and customer satisfaction. If you are interested in contacting them, you can find their headquarters at 2505 Winford Avenue in Berry Hill, or give them a call at 615-356-0303. Again, that's 615-356-0303, or log on to AlacoFineWoodFloors.com. Alaco Fine Wood Floors, serving Middle Tennessee's hardwood flooring needs since 1995.
At Baird, we have a different slant on global financial advice. That global capabilities mean nothing without personal attention. We have investor relationships in 35 countries and market expertise in over 40 industry verticals, all to help make the most important investment connections of all, yours. Global financial advice with a client-first approach. It's the shape of things to come. Discover the Baird difference at BairdDifference.com.
Okay, think about this one for a minute. When you get into the NBA and the NHL playoffs, most of the time it involves who's at home. Home team has a big advantage, in particular in the NBA. However, this is crazy. Listen closely on this one. You won't believe this. Going into last night's game at 9:30 in the NHL between Colorado, the defending Stanley Cup champion, and the Seattle Kraken, the second-year expansion team, the last 11 NHL playoff games before that one had been won by the road team. 11 in a row. How does that happen? Here's one more. Rangers in New Jersey. Bitter rivals separated by, I don't know, the Hudson River or whatever.
Whatever it is.
Whatever in the hell it is. It's a New York state of mind. Thank you, Billy Joel. You want me to sing it?
No, I do not.
Okay, I didn't think you did. Not one of the 4 games in that series has been won by the home team. Kelly, how does that happen?
I don't know. I just I remember last night when I was watching the Winnipeg Jets, and they had a whiteout in their Coliseum, and they were out there on the street before the game.
Oh, good-looking whiteout.
Yeah, I mean, it was dressed out in white. It's like Penn State, and I just, that's got to give you something. But I don't know. I think that obviously home court, home ice, home field advantage is huge. But, in the National Football League, when we played, we have to communicate. In hockey, I know those guys communicate, but they're like not yelling at each other. They just know what each other's doing. So I don't know how, I know inside when you feel motivation for what the crowd's doing, I know that obviously has an effect on you, but I don't know how much of an effect on you it has as when you're playing football, when the crowd gets involved and you can't hear anything. And when you're on offense, I remember back in the day when they started all that stuff, you remember there too, where the referees would say, hey, the crowd's got to quieten down.
Yeah.
That just doesn't happen anymore. That's something that you have to deal with. So that's why you have to go to a silent count or something like that. I just don't know how much of an influence it is when you're on the ice or when you're in a basketball arena. I'm not sure. And baseball is kind of the same way. I mean, they throw signs up, so nobody's really talking much to each other. So I don't know, but you're absolutely right. It's kind of crazy because I heard that this morning on TV talking about, all the road teams that are winning in the NHL playoffs, and it's kind of crazy.
I feel like it's easier to take a crowd out of it in hockey.
Well,
take the home crowd out.
Billy, I'm going to toss a theory at you. Okay, if let's take, for instance, one of these NBA teams. One of the things the NBA's been able to do pretty successfully is get offense back into the playoffs. It's taking 120, sometimes 130 points to win a game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In hockey, now they're called goals, but if you called them points, New Jersey needed 2, uno, dos, to win. Is it that the less number of points it takes to win favors the road team?
I think so. I mean, you're seeing there was 3-1 last night, right? I mean,
at the end, an empty net goal.
Yeah. So 2-1.
What essentially was a 2-1 game.
Like you said, all they needed 2 goals.
Dos.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but in basketball, there's ebbs and flows, and there's momentum shifts, and hockey, I don't know. It's totally different. The momentum is totally different.
It really is, but I think it's kind of the same thing, in hockey. But there's a lot of pressure sometimes when it's just like we were talking with Tony with last year's Tennessee Vols baseball team. I mean, they were one of the only teams that didn't lose a game in the SEC tournament. I think LSU was the other one. Am I correct on that? But there's so much expectation, and when you start feeling the expectation from your home crowd, that puts just a little bit more pressure on you, and sometimes that has an effect on the way you play.
I also think hockey is different in one other way, Billy. In the NBA, there really isn't a center who can stop everybody from scoring. Okay, Milwaukee's got a great player in Giannis. Well, he had no chance of smoking out Jimmy Butler last night, who was on fire like I have. In my life, I've never seen a more dominating performance than Jimmy Butler last night. But in hockey, a hot goaltender can absolutely stone a team.
Yeah, it's like a lockdown pitcher.
Yeah.
He could go 9 innings and he takes over a game. If it's tied at 1, he makes a few big saves down the stretch of the game, and all they need is 1 goal.
11 in a row that the road team won until last night when Seattle in overtime beat Colorado 3-2. Kelly, after the break, we will get abused in stat of the day.
Hey, it's a football question today.
And then you get the chance to finally meet up with Herm Edwards.
Sweet.
Did you ever play against him?
I did, yeah, and I'm going to bring that up because we played the last game of the year and both teams sucked. And the Jets, he was at the Jets, and the Jets had the number 2 ranked pass defense in the league, but they had the 32nd worst run defense. So what did our coach try to do? We try to throw the ball all over the place, and I got Kyle all paid again. So we'll see.
Oh, a lot of bitterness.
There is.
Did you notice that, Billy?
There's a lot of disagreement between Kelly and his coaches.
I think
we had our cars already packed in Buffalo. We were ready to go home. We stunk. So did the Jets. We weren't playing for anything. Let's just run the clock out. Be gracious.
You talk to him about that later.
Let Kelly run the bootleg.
No.
With all that
run
speed.
The ball.
Okay, all of that and more is coming up. Stick around. We got more coming.
Hey, thank you for meeting with me today. The insurance company has made an offer.
Already? How?
They've offered you the entire policy.
Thank you, Blair.
You're so welcome.
Forget the fact that Sir Speedy Music City is owned by my BGA classmate James Warren. Their work stands on its own merit. James and his staff do incredible work, as evidenced by the huge banners at the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. If you're looking for quality to help your marketing and business communications, and you want it at a reasonable price, these are your folks. Call them at 615-832-9511 or go to print at sirspeedymusiccity.com. And be sure to tell them Plaz sent you.
This is my buddy and former Nashville Sounds PA announcer Eric Berner. I always laughed in the old days at Greer Stadium when I would walk in, Eric would immediately play my favorite song, Van Halen's Jump. But then I learned he actually has a real job with Rockcastle Wealth Advisors.
Yeah, George, that's what I do. I help people in the pursuit of making their money live as long as they do. Everybody's situation is different, so I use a customized and individualized, personalized approach to the person I'm working with. Old 401ks, retirement planning, insurance planning, inheritance planning. Those are things that people like to get some more information about.
One of the things I find is people don't even know where to start, and that's where you come in.
Yeah, so I can usually help people with an initial phone call or meeting that is a no charge and no obligation.
And I'll bet you have a phone number and a website.
I do, George. They can call me at 615-235-1058 or rockcastlewealth.com or eric@rockcastlewealth.com.
Hello, this is Celeste Middleton, a State Farm agent in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I want to help my neighbors and local businesses be proactive and assess their risk before something unexpected happens. We want you to have a thorough understanding of your coverages to have the best protection when you need it. We can create a personal price plan for you. Our team has over 70 years of experience helping people in Middle Tennessee. We have an awesome team with integrity and provide honest and prompt communication, and we love what we do and genuinely care about everyone we work with at our office. Give us a call at 615-895-2700. Send us a message at celestemiddleton.com or walk in at our office at 803 North Thompson Lane in Murfreesboro. We would love to earn your business.
Welcome to John English Antique Sports and Cards, located at 204 East Depot Street in beautiful downtown Shelbyville, Tennessee. Their phone number is area code 931-492-4304. John, obviously, I've been blown away by what I've seen at your place. I've now been there 3 times. But for the person who's never been, what should they expect?
Well, we have a 3,000 square foot store, George. Half of it is vintage cards in all sports, and then half of the store is, a lot of people call it the museum, where there's a lot of early equipment and just the history of sports in general: baseball, football, basketball, golf, tennis, and other items.
When somebody comes in there that you know is a big sports fan, what is their normal reaction?
Well, I think that they're pleasantly surprised, and of course, being in Shelbyville, Tennessee, which is a small town that you would never expect a shop like we have to be in. So they're kind of, I don't want to say blown away, but as I said, pleasantly surprised.
Welcome back in. It's time for Stat of the Day, brought to you by John English Antique Sports and Cards out in Shelbyville, Tennessee. You can find them at 204 East Depot Street. They're open during the week, Tuesday through Friday from noon to 5, also Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5. Give them a call at 931-492-4304. All right, let's check out what David's got for us today. We're going the sport of football. College football in particular. Since Nick Saban became the head coach at Alabama in 2007, Saban has produced 39 first-round picks in the NFL draft. Alabama has produced 391 draft picks in program history. That's 6th all-time. Can you name the college football program with the most NFL draft selections in college football history?
Okay, Kelly, let's see, just before Billy starts gonging us, what's the first name came to mind for you?
Maybe Notre Dame.
Okay, the first one that came to mind for me was Southern Cal.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Southern Cal?
Southern Cal.
And you've got Notre Dame, correct, Kelly?
I do, yeah.
Kelly, you've made history. You are correct.
Wow,
yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
That was quick, too.
Nice.
Wow. Was Southern
Thanks,
Cal...
David. Thanks for a good question, Hoss. You picked the right question today.
What, was Southern Cal close?
I don't know. I'll have to check with David, but you got to imagine the USC is up there.
Yeah. Okay, good stuff.
Nice.
Good stuff. What made you pick Notre Dame?
Notre Dame's been around for a long time. They had, they had a bunch of, you see Jerome Bettis and Joe Montana and Paul Hornung, all those guys. So I just thought Notre Dame would be the pick.
Great pick.
I bet USC's close.
Yeah, I'll check on that. They got to be up there.
I would say USC, Oklahoma. I mean, Texas.
Yep. I mean, all the blue bloods.
Yeah.
So, Kelly, I don't know what's going on with Herm, but we're not making contact with him. So I'm going to toss a few of the things at you that were going to get tossed to him.
USC is up there, actually. I don't have a number, but I've heard they're in the top 5.
Yeah.
I thought I read.
So we were pretty legit. We were all over this one. Kelly.
All over it.
3 weeks ago, all the draft experts were acting like Will Levis was some sort of a leper. And now, he's too cocky. He hadn't interviewed well. He hadn't done this. He hadn't done that. Yeah. And all of a sudden, in the last couple of weeks, and I realize some of this is led by Mel Kiper.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say.
In love with Will Levis. But now all of a sudden you're starting to see people, and I'll admit I don't believe it, who are saying that Will Levis will get drafted ahead of C.J. Stroud. I'm not buying it. But what's going on there?
I don't know. I think it's the Mel Kiper effect. You just talked about it. I mean, he's been with ESPN. You know, they were talking about him being the draft guy, and he invented the draft and all this. And I think he did say that yesterday. I was watching it, and he said Will Levis would be my second pick, and then Dan Orlovsky. He likes Anthony Richardson, which I'm not sure about either one of those guys. I know that Will Levis, and we talked in length about it, that he was injured last year, but he just the accuracy doesn't come across with me or Richardson for that matter. They're going to have to work on that. I don't know what's going on, George. I really don't. I know that I was listening to some guys, and they were talking about C.J. Stroud, and I think they put a bunch of clips up about how he doesn't handle pressure well. How he gets erratic with pressure. And, that's with every quarterback. When you get pressure on Tom Brady, when you get pressure on Peyton Manning, when you get pressure on Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, I mean, they play differently. Now, some guys can handle it differently than others, and those guys can, but it's still a different game. So I don't know. I've got to see more from him. Somebody's going to draft him, obviously, because his upside is – and that's what they draft on in the NFL draft, George, is upside. What can he do? His potential. And one of my buddies told me a long time ago, he had a coach who talked about potential. And potential means you're not very good right now, but you might have the potential to be good later. So I just think that's what's going on with Will Levis. He's got to show me more. But I think it's the Mel Kiper effect. I really do, where he says it, and then the whole ESPN conglomerate just gets around it and says, hey, well, maybe we need to start looking at Will Levis more. I kind of think that's what's happening, George.
No Herm as of right now.
Okay. Well, we'll move on. Did anybody see C.J. Stroud in that Georgia game? Kelly, that's where he won me over once and for all. He was unstoppable in that game. And frankly, he deserved to be the winning quarterback in that game.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, he played really great, and he played good enough to win. There's no question about that. Now, Stetson Bennett, had a drive at the end of the game, and he came back and he brought his team back. So, those are what makes quarterbacks. What can you do when the pressure's on? I really like C.J. Stroud. I think he's right behind Bryce Young. I've always said I thought Bryce Young was really good. He's just got the intangible. He can see things. He never gets too high or too low. He stays even keel. I didn't see C.J. Stroud enough because you get some of those games, but you don't get all the games that you get from the Southeastern Conference down here. But I'm with you. He played really well in that Georgia game. Their offensive line did a really good job against the defensive line of Georgia. They gave him enough time, and he's got guys like Marvin Harrison Jr. and Njigbu. I mean, he's got guys that can get open, and he played really well that game. And I think he's a top-tier franchise quarterback. I really do. He's just got to get into the right situation, as Tony Basilio was talking about. If you get into the right situation with the right coach who uses your skill set, you can last a long time. But you just don't want to get in one of those situations where it's just not the right fit. So I think he's got to get in the right fit. And I really like C.J. Stroud. I think he's the second best quarterback in the draft. I really do.
So, are you convinced or do you believe that the Titans, if they stay at number 11, does number 11 have to be a quarterback? Should it be a quarterback?
I don't know if it needs to be a quarterback. I think you could probably be like, you could probably do like you're talking about and stay at 11 and then trade back. And you could get some more picks. I think don't they only have 6 picks for the whole draft?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is if they were to stay at 11,
gotcha.
Should it be a quarterback?
I would rather get me personally. I would rather see him get a receiver. I think they need some speed. Now we've talked about it in length too on this program about the receivers. I think that Mike Vrabel likes bigger receivers. So the guys that can run in this draft are not very big guys. They're kind of slot receivers. In Jigbu, you got the Johnston kid from TCU that are bigger guys, but I would like them to take a receiver. I think that, Ryan Tannehill is going to be there. Of course, you never know with what's going on in the draft. They might do something else, and they might trade him. Who knows what's going to happen? And I will say this. If the Houston Texans don't take somebody, then it's going to throw the whole thing out of whack. And it's going to be interesting to see how that transpires. But if it's me personally, I think you can go get a quarterback later on because I'm just not sure about Will Levis. I'm not sure about Anthony Richardson. I would rather take Hendon Hooker, and I think you can get him later on in the draft. I really do, unless you hear something. Now, if that number 2 pick goes to Will Anderson, and then C.J. Stroud comes open at number 3, then what do? I'm not sure because I think he's a franchise guy. So I'm not sure, but if it's me at number 11, I don't think you have to take a quarterback. I would take a wide receiver.
One of the things we're going to do on Thursday is exactly what you just said. We're going to present a draft where Houston takes C.J. Stroud at number 2, and then we're going to present a draft where Houston doesn't and instead goes Will Anderson from Alabama, and what dominoes start to fall. Because, Kelly, I'm with you. If they were to do that, and I don't know why the hell they would, if they're dumb enough to pass on a quarterback, if Mills is not what they believe he is, they are going to catch it. And I think it totally changes the rest of the draft on the opening night if number 2 isn't C.J. Stroud.
It totally changes the draft, George, because that's where everybody, since this draft process started, it's either going to be Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud at 1, which I think it's going to be Bryce Young. But then you got C.J. Stroud at 2. But if they don't take him, maybe they're thinking maybe they can get a quality quarterback later on in the draft as well. But it's going to be interesting to see if that happens. Then C.J. Stroud drops to number 3. And then what do all these other teams do? Are they going to try to trade up with Arizona to get it? I don't know. I mean, it's just going to be interesting to see. But if it's me, I'm not taking a quarterback at 11. I'm not. But I don't get paid the big money, and I'm not in that room. But we also don't know what they're going to do, what they're thinking about Ryan Tannehill either. I mean, are they using him maybe on draft day? Are they using him as trade bait? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with that, and that's what makes this whole deal really intriguing.
Terry's going to join us tomorrow, and what he is saying, coming out of the press conference yesterday, Rand Carthon said that he had a conversation with Ryan Tannehill in February where he basically told him, this is where you stand with us. Terry thinks it's now a done deal that Tannehill is coming back.
I don't know why you would bring Ryan Tannehill back. I don't think he's done anything to lose his job. I mean, he hasn't got you over the hump of getting, further in the playoffs. But, if you're going to take a guy like Hendon Hooker, or you're going to take one of these guys, well, you got a veteran who's played a bunch of football. He was injured last year, but I said it earlier a couple of weeks ago on this show that I firmly believe if Ryan Tannehill stays healthy last year, that's not even a game at the end of the season. They go to the playoffs. I firmly believe that. Jacksonville's not even in the – we're not even talking about Jacksonville, although they have gotten better. But if Ryan Tannehill stays injury-free and he stays on the field, they're going to the playoffs. So I've always liked Ryan Tannehill. I like where he came from. I like guys that had to fight. I like guys that when he came in, Marcus Mariota was the quarterback. He didn't ruffle any feathers. He tried to help him as much as he could. Then when his time came, he got on the field, he produced, he played well. And that's where we are right now. He got a big contract. He got a lot of money. And I think that if you're going to draft a quarterback, you can wait later. And then you could, like a Hendon Hooker, I think he's the perfect guy for that, where, he's coming off from injury. They're not so sure. You could put him behind Ryan Tannehill to learn as much as he can, sit on the bench for a year or two and figure it out. And I think that's the best place. I would definitely keep Ryan Tannehill on his roster.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate here. I'm not convinced that you can wait to the second round if you want Hooker.
I'm not convinced either, because I'm not sure all these teams, we talk about everybody getting closed-lipped and lying about stuff right now, and I'm not so sure. Me personally, he's the third best quarterback in this draft. To me, I like what he did. His junior year, he came in, he played. They thought Joe Milton was going to be the starter. He came in and played, and then his senior year just blew it up. And then he had that unfortunate thing where he hurt his ACL. He tore his ACL. But I like Hendon Hooker. From everything I'm hearing, Tony's talked about it. Tony Basilio, what good a guy he is. I think he's impressed people at the combine and when they've interviewed him, when he's gone on his visits. I think he's an impressive young man. And to me, I think he's the third guy. So, but I'm with you. I don't think you can wait till the second round. And with them only having six picks, they're going to have to do something. So that's where I'm talking. You know, I know that you said, what do you do at 11 if you stick with it? But I think you could drop back and gain some more draft picks and get everything you wanted in this draft. If I'm the Titans GM and I'm those guys, of course, you know, I'm not in those meetings, but you got to weigh all that stuff. And I would like more picks. That's what every GM wants. They want more picks. And if you could trade that pick back and pick up about 2 or 3 more picks, I think that would be great.
Okay, isn't there real dilemma in the room trying to figure out that piece of the equation? How far can we drop back and Hendon Hooker still be there? Because there's all these rumblings that Seattle really likes him. Yeah, they've got Geno Smith, but that's a short term, a year or two, a little bit like Tannehill. Isn't that the hard part right now, is to try to sit in that room and gauge, can we really trade down without losing Hooker to somebody else? Isn't that the problem?
Well, that's the risk you take. You know, I told somebody I had to go do an event, and back in the day, you remember when Ben Roethlisberger was coming out and it was J.P. Lossman, Ben Roethlisberger. Well, I know for a fact that the Buffalo Bills wanted to draft Ben Roethlisberger, but guess who was in front of them? The Pittsburgh Steelers, and that was Mr. Donahoe, who was, you know, he was the GM for the Pittsburgh Steelers for a long, long time. And he wanted that. So you never know what other teams are thinking. They're not going to tell you what they're thinking. You just got to find out on the trade. You know, you just got to find out on draft day, and then you got to make the best decisions you can. But you can bet that there's going to be some fiery conversation, you know, in that room, because you've got a bunch of different people who's got a bunch of different opinions. And I know that the GM is the head guy, but all GMs want more picks. And when you have 6 picks, you would like to hang in there and get some more if you could. And that's trade bait right there at number 11.
So yesterday, while we were on the air, the Aaron Rodgers stuff finally broke. It's about time. Now that you've had a little time to digest who got what for who do you think made out better in this?
Well, I think we talked about it yesterday. I think, you know, David and Billy both said it, and I agree with them. I think Green Bay came out better in this situation. And I think the Jets realized that, hey, we don't know if this guy's going to play more than 1 year. I think they were trying to get some assurances that he was going to play more than 1 year. But I think that's, you know, you kind of alluded to it. I think that's what the Packers have been struggling with for the last 5 years. Every year in the offseason, Aaron Rodgers says, well, I don't know if I'm going to come back. And there's always this drama going on. So I'm sure they probably got a little tired of that. But, you know, he's one of the greatest ever. I think he's the, you know, I've told you what I thought about him. I think he's, you know, I wish he would have had more Super Bowls. But, you know, at that position, he is by far the most athletic guy throwing the football that I think I've ever seen. He's unbelievable. But I think the Green Bay Packers came out on top of this. But I think you look at the Jets, and the Jets have a young team, but I think they feel like they can win now, and they feel like they can make a run at the thing if they get somebody behind the center. And that's why they ended up making the deal. And we even talked about it yesterday. I think the Green Bay Packers were willing to sit on those sidelines and make the New York Jets think about it a little bit. And once the time got closer to the draft, I think the Jets said, hey, we got to make this deal. We don't know what's going to happen with the draft. We got to make this deal. And I think that's what happened. And I think the Green Bay Packers pushed them over the edge, and I think they got the better deal in it.
This was what the Jets are doing, is taking every chip and putting it on one hand of blackjack.
Correct.
And Kelly, here's what I'm kind of curious about. There's no question the Jets are close. Are they truly now better than Buffalo in their own division?
I don't know. Buffalo's been doing it for a couple of years. Buffalo's got to get over that edge with Kansas City, you know, and Cincinnati. I mean, there's so many. That's what I was going to ask Herm about with all these quarterbacks, but I'm just not sure about that. You really don't know how a guy's going to gel. I know he's been with Hackett before, but he's been in this offense. He understands that there's going to be nothing different, but he is going to be playing with different guys. And you saw last year, with him not being involved in the offseason, just how long it took him in Green Bay to get kind of on the same page with all those younger wide receivers and the younger team. So it's going to be interesting to see. It's hard to come into a situation, and that's what makes what Tom Brady did at Tampa Bay. His first year, he won the Super Bowl. And I would have bet anything in the world that would never have happened. And I know that he puts a lot of time into it. And I know he went down there and he worked with all those guys. But coming in your first year and winning a Super Bowl, that's so hard. And that's what's going to make this really hard, because you've got a guy that's been there, that's done it for a long time. He's got 4 NFL MVPs, but he's going with a team that is really young, that has never really done it. So you hadn't been in those situations like a Buffalo, like a Cincinnati now, like a Kansas City, where you don't know how the young guys are going to react in a big game. So you know how Rodgers is going to react, but you just don't know how those young guys are going to react. So it's going to be interesting to see.
Well, the one piece we don't know is he willing to show up early? This is a brand new deal. Yeah. Is he willing to do that, or is he going to play the I'll be there at training camp?
I can see with him being with a new team and knowing that he doesn't have probably very long to play this game much longer. So I can see him going in early and getting with all those guys, getting with all the young receivers, getting with his tight end and his running backs and going through all that. I can see him having an off-season program with him. But he hasn't done that in the last couple of years in Green Bay. So who knows? We'll see. They might have that. They might also have that in the contract clause. I mean, they might have to say, hey, you got to be here for the offseason. I mean, they put that stuff in contracts now, so we'll see.
Billy, he's been sitting in his Osama bin Laden cave.
The dark room?
Yeah, very dark room.
He better have one in New York somewhere.
Oh, he may need one. First time the media get all over him, he's going to want that dark room.
He's been crawling back to it.
Let's go to the break. And where do we start this break? Well, none other than Action 24/7 Sports. Here's the deal. Are you betting the NBA or the NHL playoffs? Today at Action 24/7, you can use the promo code GEORGE and get a 300% deposit match up to $20 on your first deposit. Action 24/7 is Tennessee's only locally owned and operated sports book. That's right. If you have questions, these are good folks. They'll help you. They are your neighbors, and they're located right here in Tennessee. So download the app or visit action247.com to start all that winning, and please bet responsibly.
How am I going to get to work? My car's totaled.
Skylar, our team is making a call right now. We'll get you a rental car. Don't worry.
That's a relief.
Call us 24/7. We're here. We're going to help.
Year number 2 of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night was awesome. And the reason is really simple. I chose Strike and Spare, and they were amazing. They have great food, great bowling, and a staff that is truly ready to go the extra mile to help you. They have 5 family fun centers in the area to choose from, and for more info, go to strikeandspare.com or call them at 615-824-5685. Now that the weather has gotten considerably warmer, there's not a better place to spend a morning or an afternoon than Riverside Golf Links. So you've probably noticed the weather has gotten a lot warmer, and that means a couple of things in Nashville. It means baseball, and it really means golf. And for me, it's a visit to Riverside Golf Links. The course has improved dramatically. There are now 27 holes, including a 9-hole executive course. If you want tee times or more information, dial them up at 615-847-5074.
You can't see the sights without the sounds. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the crowd and everything in between. Discover what Hit City has to offer. Spend your nights cheering on the Nashville Sounds at First Horizon Park with giveaways, fireworks shows, theme weekends, and more. Single game tickets are on sale now. Visit NashvilleSounds.com to claim your seat today.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
Yeah, take a look at that playoff recap right now. Kelly, the team that stands to make the biggest jump because of where we are right now is the Knicks. First of all, Cleveland hasn't given the Knicks anywhere near the stuff that they showed in the regular season. I don't know what's going on with Cleveland, but since they got to the Garden, the Knicks have mopped them up and spit them up and shoot them out. So the Knicks, for the moment, look like they're going to win that series, and they're cheering for Jimmy Butler louder than even Jimmy Butler is cheering for Jimmy Butler. Because if Miami wins one more, the Knicks don't have to deal with Giannis. They don't have to deal with Milwaukee. Suddenly they'd get a second-round matchup with Miami, which means one of those two teams is going to play in the Eastern Conference Final. And, Kelly, to me, the Knicks have a ton to gain here.
George, it's pretty cool to see the Knicks back in contention. They've kind of been an afterthought for how long now? How long has it been since they've been in the playoffs?
Nixon. Not quite, but it feels that way.
Actually, yeah, I mean, like I remember growing up and Patrick Ewing and John Starks and all them guys. I can remember being in New York. I like the New York Knicks because they were tough. They played good. They always had those huge, intense series with the Indiana Pacers with Reggie Miller. So it's cool to see New York back in kind of the spotlight at Madison Square Garden, the mecca of sports, and it's cool to see them there. And you're absolutely right. They want Miami Heat to win, that's for sure. But I wouldn't count Milwaukee out just yet. I think they'll win at home. And then, last night they were leading the whole game until the very end, where they just crumbled at the end. They were turning the ball over. Drew Holiday I don't know what he was doing, and then Giannis turned the ball over as well. So I just don't think you count them out right now. They're one of the teams I think that could come back from a 3-1, but it depends on their mindset. But if Jimmy Butler plays like he did last night, it's going to be hard for Milwaukee. But I think they get one in Milwaukee, and then they'll have to go back to Miami, and then we'll see how it goes from there. But you're absolutely right. The Knicks want the Heat to win.
So the Knicks missed the playoffs last year. They lost in the first round in 2021. But before that, their last appearance was 2013.
Crazy.
And if you really want to go back in ancient history, the day of the O.J. Simpson chase, the Knicks were playing host to the Houston Rockets in the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
That's how long it's been since they've been relevant. And for that matter, kind of the last time OJ's been relevant. If the glove don't fit, you got to quit.
Yeah, their last finals appearance was 99.
Yeah, it's been a while, man. I enjoyed watching them grow up because everybody, Patrick Ewing was a dog. I mean, all those guys, they had a really good team, and they were in it for years with him, but they haven't been relevant in a while.
It looks like they've really spooked the Cavs.
Yeah, the other thing that goes on, their crowd gets into it like no other NBA arena. When that organist hits that, I don't know why I compare all these. The Knicks. When you hear that guy hit that organ,
dun, dun, dun. What do they play?
Dun, dun. That place goes nuts. And then you hear all these other arenas, and it sounds like a bunch of dead cows.
They're playing hip hop during the defensive possession.
Yeah. So the other thing in the East sure looks like it's going to be Philly and Boston. And for the life of me, while I know Joel Embiid is a great player, I think James Harden is a dog. I've always thought he was a dog. And I'll continue to say, if you hang around with dogs long enough, you're going to get fleas.
Yeah, but he seems like he's changed a little bit, George. Is he not? I mean, he's not the guy when he was at Houston. It seems like that when Joel Embiid is in the game, he relinquishes power to him. I mean, he understands that he's the best player on our team. Used to you didn't see him. Like he would hog the ball and do all that, but it seems like he's being more of a team player. To me, it does, the games that I've watched. Now, he has that ability, there's no doubt, to just take up some crazy shots and turn the ball over. But, I think they're pretty good, but Boston's really good too with Jason Tatum. I mean, they're a good basketball team, and the Brown kid, they play the right way, and they've got some dogs on that team. So that'll be an interesting series.
Maybe the second best player in Philly is the kid from Kentucky, Tyrese Maxey.
He's a ball player.
He is tough.
He's a ball player, and then they got is it Tobias Harris?
Yeah, from Tennessee.
Yeah, he's really good too. He's come along too, and I think Doc Rivers really likes him. So they got some really good players. I mean, this is and I told you last night this morning when we talked, George. Last night was like it was the most unbelievable professional sports night I've seen. I mean, I felt like I was getting like sensory overload. I felt like I was you talked about the Bass Pro Shops. I felt like I was there because I go in to get one thing, and then once I find that thing, the next thing is a little bit better, and then the next thing's a little bit better. It's like that last night. I was getting sensory overload with all the great games on TV last night.
Well, he mentioned Doc Rivers. That's a big difference. Having a coach like that that has won at a high level, that's a good point,
He's
Kelly.
put the reins on James Harden a little bit.
Yeah.
You had Butler with his 56 points. You had all these hockey games going into overtime that were incredible. The Memphis Laker finish was insane.
Crazy.
And, oh, by the way, Spencer Strider had a no-hitter into the eighth inning last night for the Braves.
Talk about sensory overload.
Man.
What were you watching, George?
I had the flipper. I kept flipping around. So in the West, it seems pretty cut and dried up top. Denver and Phoenix are going to play.
Right.
And while Denver may be the 1 seed, they don't feel like it to a lot of people. Phoenix will go into that series, I believe, as the favorite. They've got Kevin Durant. They've got Chris Paul. They have, who am I missing?
Devin Booker.
Booker.
Oh,
Devin
gosh.
Booker.
Devin Booker.
The Suns feel
stud.
They feel different than most elite teams in the NBA. Just when they're at their best,
they can really shoot.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think they play the level of defense that some other teams do, but that's going to be the second round matchup. And even though Denver's the 1 seed, I think Phoenix is going to be the favorite. Now, at the bottom, NBC is drooling. Actually, it's not NBC. It's ABC and ESPN.
Yeah.
They're drooling.
Used to be NBC.
They want Lakers, Golden State. They'd take Lakers, Sacramento. They want Memphis out.
It's always that way with Memphis, I feel.
Well, here's the deal. Memphis is a hard team to root for.
But you go back to those really good Memphis teams that kept losing to the Warriors in their prime, their heyday with Gasol and Conley and Allen. Those were really likable groups. This team's just they're not likable.
They really are. They're like villains, man. And I will say this about Sacramento. We talked about it at the beginning of the show. De'Aaron Fox doesn't play. Golden State
they're not winning that
one.
game.
Yeah, he's got to play. He has to play for, if they have a chance, he has to play against Golden State. If they don't, I can see them getting a road win and finishing at home.
That series at the bottom, Sacramento and Golden State, is as good a first-round matchup as the NBA has had in a long, long time. If you look, most of the others feel like you know who's going to win, other than maybe Miami, Milwaukee, where it's still a little hard to believe that an 8 is going to topple a 1. But that thing at the bottom right, Sacramento at Golden State, that's as good a first-round matchup as the NBA has had in a long, long time. We're going to go to the break. We'll have Plaster's bets of the day, one in the NHL, one in the NBA, and good Lord, I need a win, so stay tuned.
Hockey in Music City just hits different. It's one big honky-tonk party. It's the sea of gold in the crowd, the goals, the saves, the celebrations. It's an experience like no other. Experience Predators hockey all season long. Visit NashvillePredators.com/season tickets and join the Loyal Legion today. That's NashvillePredators.com/tickets, and we'll see you at Bridgestone Arena.
You know, starting to save for your future doesn't have to be difficult. Let Wilson Bank and Trust help tone up your financial goals this year. Our certificates of deposits or CDs can help your money work harder with our competitive rates, earning you more than ever before. WBT checking options allow you to earn rewards you can really use, like a high interest rate or cash back on check card purchases when you meet some e-banking qualifications. Visit your closest Wilson Bank and Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC.
Family owned and operated for more than 2 decades, Alaco Fine Wood Floors is Nashville and Middle Tennessee's choice for premium quality hardwood floors. Since 1995, Jimmy Alaco and his army of employees have embodied the approach of taking pride in one's craft and providing superior customer service, growing from a one-man shop to a team of 23 professionals who share the founder's passion for quality craftsmanship and customer satisfaction. If you are interested in contacting them, you can find their headquarters at 2505 Winford Avenue in Berry Hill, or give them a call at 615-356-0303. Again, that's 615-356-0303, or log on to alacofinewoodfloors.com. Alaco Fine Wood Floors, serving Middle Tennessee's hardwood flooring needs since 1995.
At Baird, we have a different slant on global financial advice. That global capabilities mean nothing without personal attention. We have investor relationships in 35 countries and market expertise in over 40 industry verticals, all to help make the most important investment connections of all, yours. Global financial advice with a client-first approach. It's the shape of things to come. Discover the Baird difference at BairdDifference.com.
Hey, thank you for meeting with me today. The insurance company has made an offer.
Already? Wow.
They've offered you the entire policy.
Thank you, Blair.
You're so welcome.
Hello, this is Celeste Middleton, a State Farm agent in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I want to help my neighbors and local businesses be proactive and assess their risk before something unexpected happens. We want you to have a thorough understanding of your coverages to have the best protection when you need it. We can create a personal price plan for you. Our team has over 70 years of experience helping people in Middle Tennessee. We have an awesome team with integrity and provide honest and prompt communication, and we love what we do and genuinely care about everyone we work with at our office. Give us a call at 615-895-2700. Send us a message at celestemiddleton.com or walk in at our office at 803 North Thompson Lane in Murfreesboro. We would love to earn your business.
Final segment on a Tuesday, Plaster's Bet of the Day coming up. Brought to you by Bart Durham Injury Law. They are lawyers that you can trust. Give them a call, 615-242-9000, or log on to bartdurham.com. All right, let's check out what happened last night. As we pull up the graphic, Rangers lost to the Devils. Sort of an unexpected. Were they at home, Georgia?
Yeah. What in the world?
It was a big dud.
It was a total dud.
But Los Angeles got it done.
Barely. If that hadn't gone to overtime, it's a big L for GTP.
By the skin of their teeth.
So, Kelly, here is where we are going tonight. We're going to go against this trend where the road team wins all these NHL games, and we're going to call it the way it is. Tell it like it is. Okay. Carolina is better than the Islanders. They win at home. Book it.
I agree with that. I agree with that. I mean, just studying it a little bit, I like Carolina, and you've gone to them before already.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's been on my must-read list.
He's going back to the well.
So this one, I don't know. I mean, I don't feel great about any of them tonight.
The 3-1 lead is what gets you.
Yeah, and Denver at home. I mean, they need to wrap this series up because Phoenix is likely to do the same. I think Denver wins this in double digits. I think Minnesota had their moment in the sun Sunday night. They looked really good doing it, but I'm not buying it.
Yeah,
Denver.
and they're probably good with it too because they understand that they're probably not as good as Denver. And hey, we got one out of it. I mean, that's the way a lot of these teams think nowadays, and I think you're absolutely right. So I think that's a good pick because I think they will beat them more than that.
For Minnesota to win, the kid from Georgia, Anthony Edwards, needs a Jimmy Butler night.
And he's pretty good. He can do it.
That's asking a lot.
By the way, Butler just scored again. Since the show started, he's up to 70 for the night. Kelly, Terry McCormick's going to join us tomorrow. We'll get into more of the NFL draft. Are you aware it's Thursday?
I am aware, yes, totally.
Good Lord.
Doesn't feel like it.
Oh, yes, it does. You watch ESPN, it feels like it. We'll see all of you tomorrow. Kelly, behave.
See you, brother.